All right, and welcome back to another episode of Johnny on the Track, and we are joined by an awesome guest today. We are live on the phone with the Spire Motorsports Crew Chief for the number 7 Chevy Camaro, driven and operated by Corey Lajoie. We are here with that crew chief, Ryan Sparks. Ryan, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so let's get into, I always like to start, we were talking a little before the show, I always like to start with kind of how you got into racing growing up, and kind of the impact it had on you. So tell me, like growing up, were you a racer? Was this just something you loved? Were you always around the racetrack? Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so at a very young age, my dad was really big into dirt karting. And he would travel all over the Southeast. Anywhere there was a race on the weekend, he was pretty much there. So he was super competitive with that and successful. And that's how I kind of got my feet wet. And did a little bit of karting myself and, never was really the driver. I enjoyed it, just wasn't great at it. They say it skips generations. So,
oh, no.
Once I got old enough, I started working on an open wheel modified for Bobby Hutchins at Bowman Gray Stadium, and at the time he was the vice president of competition at RCR. So got my foot in the door there, and but I cut my teeth over at Bowman Gray Stadium working on modifieds. Gotcha.
That's interesting. So it's interesting here too. That's kind of what I grew up on, and what really, I love obviously watching the Cup Series every weekend, but my favorite thing to do, man, is go to Connecticut, Stafford Speedway, and watch the open wheel modifieds duke it out. Guys like Ryan Preece, Justin Bonsignor, that's just what I love. The NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour, although I think it doesn't get enough love. That is such a good series, and hearing you like grow up on modifieds, like I get it, because they are awesome. They sure are.
Absolutely. My hearts is always kind of with the modifieds, the ground pounders. Those guys are grinders. They work full-time jobs and then get off and go to their shops at night and spend a lot of time working on the cars, just grassroots racing. I still have a great appreciation for that, and would probably eventually be back doing that one day, maybe when I'm retired from this, but definitely enjoy modified racing.
That's what I love to hear. And it really is like that community, like, I really I've always liked them, but I really just started going like the last couple of years to watch them, and the community and the support behind it. It's something special. And it's kind of like, if you had like a minor league baseball team right in your backyard, and you got that support. So yeah, absolutely. So I want to now go into a little bit about this season. And I've always wondered kind of, what the mindset is for some of these smaller teams, right? You've got your Hendricks that are the big teams, your Gibbs, but then you have these smaller teams, and they mean a lot to me because, this is obviously a smaller podcast, right? So I like to root for, some of the teams that are just trying to grind it out, right? And so with that, kind of what is the mindset? Obviously you want to go out and win every week, but you have to have realistic expectations for yourself. So kind of what is that mindset on a week in, week out basis?
The goals change each and every week, depending on what package we're running and what the expectations are, and make sure they're realistic going into each and every week. Like, they're going to be different at a speedway compared to like a mile and a half or a short track even, obviously the mile and a half being all about motor and aero, a smaller team, we're not at the top of the list when it comes to that. So, we have to kind of get cute on strategy and outsmart the guys to have good finishes on those days. Whereas at speedways, literally anybody has a shot to win. And then at short tracks, if you have a good handling car, that'll outweigh some of the aerodynamics and things like that. So building the team at Spire this year, I think we've exceeded expectations. And that's kind of our main goal. We don't have a set number like we need to finish here or there to meet our goal. Our goal is to exceed everyone's expectations of what we should accomplish. I think we've done that most weeks this year. And of course, like, all race teams, we've come up short several weeks as well, which is part of growing pains and building a program. So definitely think we have something to be proud of, but we definitely have some things on the list that we need to improve on.
I totally agree that you guys should have plenty to be proud of, because you look at Corey had that top 10 early in Daytona, and then that second time at Daytona. Like, how awesome is that, right? Like, one of those final restarts, your guys right up there. And to, I know it didn't end the way I'm sure you guys wanted it to end, but like, how awesome is that to see your team kind of like right up, with the big boys right up front, and you got a super speedway guy in Corey Lajoie, like up there wheeling. You must feel like you have a good shot, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously anything can happen in a very short period of time at those super speedway races, but the main thing is just being there at the end and giving yourself an opportunity. And if you do that enough, you're eventually going to gain the respect of other guys, and you're going to get that push that you need to go on to a win. So, a lot of the smaller teams ride in the back and just try to have a good day financially. And, but now that these cars are obsolete at the end of the year, we're kind of turning our guys loose and putting them up front to gain that respect they need to put these things in victory lane and just give ourselves those opportunities. But being up front at Daytona was awesome. It felt great. It was awesome to call the race very aggressive. And, just stage 2, we never pitted. We stretched our fuel the whole way. That was a little nerve-wracking. It was a lot of fun as a crew chief to just make those calls. But being up front is, we got a lot of exposure, not only good for our team just to be recognized, but our sponsors as well.
Hell yeah. I mean, it's always cool to see, these smaller teams out front and show them like really the hard work that goes into this, and just show like, hey, don't forget about us, which is always cool. So I want to also talk about, that relationship, that chemistry between the driver and the crew chief, obviously you and Corey. How important really is it to have good chemistry and a good relationship between, the driver and the crew chief?
It's extremely important. He's got to be able to have 100% faith in what I'm doing, putting in the car that he's driving. I mean, we're literally showing up to the racetrack with no practice or qualifying. And, the first lap of the race is the first lap at speed, he's not had any opportunity to kind of warm up to it per se throughout the weekend. It's hammered down from the drop of the green flag. So, myself, my engineer, Corey, we have a great relationship. We can be open and honest with each other. Like, I definitely want him to be able to tell me when I'm wrong, or my thought process is not lining up with his, and, brutal honesty has always been my opinion on how things should be approached. And it always pays off better in the long run. And I think we have that, and we're able to call each other out,
Yeah, absolutely. So I like so let's say, right, the race doesn't go well, and let's say for what it's worth, you screw up, and maybe you made a call that that wasn't the right one in the end. Like, talk to me about like how difficult that is, and kind of how you move past it.
Well, I always say I hate running back going into an off weekend, because it's an extra week. You kind of have to think about it, But for example, at Darlington, we were running 7th, had a great run going. Caution come out. It was kind of a weird spot. We had just pitted, so we lost a lap. Well, if the race would have went green all the way, the cars that waved around would have lost that lap back. So I chose to take the gamble and pit again to have fresher tires, and I thought I'd be on the good end of it. And the caution came out right away again. So the guys that took the wave around, they jumped it. So we ended up losing about 7 spots. And, I kind of beat myself up over it a while, but, it happens. Look at the Hendrick guys at Las Vegas. They literally gave that race away because they made a bad call. It happens from the top to the bottom. And those guys all have very high dollar strategy tools that help them make them calls when I'm calling them from my gut, history and, just kind of common sense calls. So it happens from top to bottom. Every crew chief has made them, and it won't be the last time I make a bad call. But you gotta just own it and learn from it.
Yeah, absolutely. And luckily, NASCAR season, right? It is a long season and you can recover. You look at like the NFL, right? You screw up 3-4 times, that's 25% of the season, right? The NASCAR season is long, and you're not gonna finish first every race. Although Kyle Larson, right, dominates a lot of these races out here, he's had his bad share. And I guess, the moral of the story is that's racing, right? So I do want to get into a little bit about this next gen car. Being a crew chief, maybe you know a lot more about this than what we read as fans. What are you expecting? Because they say it's going to be a really competitive car. It's going to be tough to get that little bit of speed and advantage. What are you expecting from the racing next year?
I don't have an honest opinion right now. We're doing the roval test next week with the next gen car, so I may have a little different opinion after that. But just kind of a generic opinion, I think the cream will rise to the top. You're going to see the same guys winning these races. There's a reason they win. It's not only because equipment, but because they're phenomenal drivers. Just like throughout the weekend, this past weekend, there's a ton of wrecks in the truck and Xfinity race at Talladega, but not as many in the Cup race. And it's because those guys that drive on Sunday are damn good.
Yeah, they are.
But there will be teams that find advantages with this car, even though it's a common chassis and parts amongst all teams. There will be advantages to be found, and it's still all a lot about budget. The bigger teams have bigger budgets. They got more people, more engineers, can figure things out quicker than other people. So it's going to be interesting. But like I said, I may have a different opinion or a stronger opinion one way after next week's test.
Yeah. All right. Well, you'll have to keep us updated about that. All right. Yeah, for sure. So that brings me to this question then. So currently, how much really is the driver impacting the result? I'm sure it's a ton, right? But at the same time, you say these teams that do have the funding, they have a lot to work with. How much is it really right now with this current gen car? The driver, is it like 75%? Is it 90? Or is it even, can you not even measure that?
It's a lot still driver. These guys are incredible.
Yeah.
I think it changes, with the different racetracks we go to, right? Some tracks fit driver style more than others. I think the 1.5 miles, the car probably has a little bit more of a role into the performance than the driver at other tracks, but the driver's still a huge part of it. I don't think you can necessarily take a 25th place driver and put him in his car and he wins those races. I think he could be competitively a top 7 driver, but there is Kyle Larson is that good.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we get to see it, when he goes out and in the World Outlaws wins this, throw him in a late models, he wins that. But that's interesting. That's an interesting point. You say it is a lot driver. And you stress this point a lot. Like we can tell, these guys are some of the best drivers in the world. And it's just awesome to go out and watch. And that's why, it's so awesome. Yesterday, you watched Dega, you watch some of these guys in these packages, like a Corey Lajoie. Even you saw Cody Ware out there a little bit out front. And that's cool to see. And it just shows you this is a pool of drivers that are just so talented. And it's fun to watch. So I would say as a whole, I would ask you, how do you think, and you touched on a little bit before, but how would you grade this year for your team? Like an A to an F? Hey, and you said you like brutal honesty, so you got to give it to us here.
Honestly, I think I'll give us a B-.
Okay.
I think we've done some things well. I think, I've made some mistakes. Corey's made some mistakes. We had an engine failure. We had a gear failure. We've got caught up in some wrecks. Like I said, being a building year, we literally got the keys to the shop less than a year ago. So from what we've built to now, I'd say a solid B minus for sure.
Hey man, well, I think it's been fun watching you guys out there all year. And to me, I just appreciate what you guys do on a week in, week out basis. So I'm a little biased as a fan because, I do love this sport, but I would give all these teams A pluses because, I've seen behind the scenes how hard these people work. And, it's just special to me to just see it all put together on a Sunday. That's for sure. But circle, I want to get your thoughts, like circle a track that you just love to go to and all week you're just ready to go and say, I think this is our track. This is a track that we can go. Obviously you got your Degas, your Daytonas that, everybody loves, but aside from that, like, do you have a track that just you get pumped to go to?
Oh, for sure. And I've been spring and I cannot wait to get back to Martinsville Speedway.
Okay.
That one's been circled on my calendar for quite some time. It's my favorite track. It reminds me of growing up at Bowman Gray Stadium, short track, beating and banging. It's my personal favorite for sure. We had a top 10 run going and actually got caught up in some mess on pit road and kind of ended our day. But Corey does really good at that track, and super excited to get back there. I honestly think we can be a 5th to 10th place car if we execute properly.
That's awesome. I mean, I can't wait to see. And that package, that short track package that they've ran this year, they ran it at Nashville, obviously run it at Bristol and Martinsville and New Hampshire. That package, man, has delivered like all year. It's put on some of the best finishes I think personally have been with that package. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh yeah, for sure. More horsepower.
Yep.
And less downforce has been great at those short tracks.
Yeah.
It's created some pretty good racing, some decent passing and stuff like that. And I think the smaller teams are able to, capitalize if they do a good job a little better than the 550 package. So I enjoy it. And like I said, I've definitely got that place, Martinsville, circled on my calendar. And then also excited to get back to Phoenix for the season finale.
Great track.
Corey's, he's pretty good around there. But definitely Martinsville, hands down. There's not even a close second.
That's awesome. All right. How about opposite side of the spectrum? How about, so I talked to, we've had Kyle Larson spotter on a couple times on the show, Tyler Mon, and he's told us, man, does he not like spotting at Pocono? Just because it makes his job a lot harder than it already is. So how about you? Is it circle a track? And maybe there is none. But there's got to be one where you're like, oh, geez, this place again.
I tend to find something I like about every racetrack.
Fair enough.
However, the last few times, and it's almost a tie between Richmond and Loudon. The racing is terrible. And you think it would be okay being a short track, but it is so hard to pass at both those places. And just haven't had good runs there, and I don't know. I don't know what it is about it. I don't know. That last Richmond race was painful to sit through. I mean, it was terrible.
Yeah, I agree. And being a guy who's from the Northeast and having gone to Loudon a lot, the racing there, man, sometimes it's just tough. And you're right, like it's so hard to pass and it's brutal to watch. I've raced that on like the NASCAR heat games, and
Yep.
Like Richmond obviously is a tough one to run, but like New Hampshire, I mean, I honestly don't know how the drivers do that and get around because it's so tight. You really can't pass on the outside. Your best chance is just to kind of slide up in front of somebody and get right in front of their front bumper. But I'm a Northeast kid. I've gone to Loudon now quite a bit. Last couple of years I've been there, and although it was cool to see Almirola there this year win it, it's still, man, it was tough. And the year before with Keselowski, that race, man, that race was brutal. That race was brutal to sit through.
Yeah, the best race at Loudon all weekend is the modified race, hands down.
Dude, you're right. You are right. And honestly, the same thing with Richmond. You see that finish at Richmond this year?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, no, the modifieds always put on a good show. It's funny enough, right? So I've got Track Pass, so obviously I watch all the modified races, but that is a race that I've never been to. And my girlfriend's dad, who we go to all the races with, he's been to the last 3 modified races at New Hampshire, and he says like that's a race you literally have to mark on your calendar and you have to go watch because it's that good.
Right, and some things to get excited about is with those modifieds being being good races at those tracks is the next gen car has a little bit bigger tire than it has this year, similar to the modified. So there's going to be some changes that may create some better racing with the next gen car at those tracks. So all we can do is hope.
Yeah,
that's the case. So
I agree with you. But man, hey, I really appreciate your time. Those are all the questions I got for you. So thank you so much. And we'll be rooting for you this week at the Roval. What are your thoughts on the Roval? That's obviously a tough one to run. What are you expecting there?
I enjoy road course racing. Everybody's on a little bit different strategy, depending on how their car is handling or the performance of the car. They may try to short the stage or run it out and have a little bit of a tire advantage. So I like that aspect of it. However, just taking a race away from Charlotte, being a real historic track for our sport, I kind of favor the oval. I like the oval track. I was fortunate enough to win the Coke 600 with Austin Dillon there a few years back. So, that place is kind of special to me. That was my first Cup win, and so I'd rather run the oval than the Roval, but I do enjoy road course racing, so I can take it or leave it.
All right. Well, we're looking forward to it. Obviously, it's the final round of this round of 12 in the playoffs. So that should be good. Should be a lot on the line for a lot of these drivers. A couple guys in must-win scenarios, William Byron, Alex Bowman. So it should be, hopefully it delivers a good show. Last couple of years it has. But Ryan, again, thank you so much. We're rooting for you guys this weekend. Tell Corey, we love watching him out there. And thank you for coming on.